United States and North Vietnamese negotiators did not meet in Paris today, but there still are unconfirmed reports, more of them, that South Vietnam's President Thu has agreed in principle to taking part in the expanded peace talks, possibly by next week. In Saigon, however, President Thu said today that his conditions for participating in the talks have not changed. Thu has proposed a two-sided peace conference with South Vietnam leading the Allied side and North Vietnam the Communist side. Hanoi has consistently rejected the Thu proposal. In Vietnam today, North Vietnamese troops attacked a force of U.S. 1st Division infantrymen about 25 miles north of Saigon. The Americans killed 12 enemy soldiers. 1 American was killed and 12 others were wounded. Allied forces began an assault on Mount Nui Coto this week, an enemy position guarding a major infiltration and supply route near the Cambodian border. This is the second Allied assault on the same place in 4 months. ABC's Don Baker reports from Landing Zone Emerald.
There's a rocky little hillside down there called $1 Million Ridge. They call it $1 Million Ridge because more than $1 million worth of bombs, bullets, and rockets have been poured into that ridge, and it's still firmly in the hands of the Viet Cong. The Mobile Strike Force Battalion landed the South Vietnamese flag on Nui Cotto last July 10th. They stayed for 100 days, then abandoned their camps, blew up their bunkers, and went home. Now, after just 4 days, the same battalion is back on the mountain. During the 4 days the strike force was gone, the Viet Cong didn't waste any time. The area has been well seeded with mines. There are at least a dozen in the paths, but all the mines are found, none explode. All of the helicopters flying around the top of Nui Cotto are shot at by 50 caliber machine guns, somewhere down in the rocks. Gunships try to silence the machine guns, but apparently the guns are in tunnels where the Cobras can't reach them. Jet fighters unload bombs, napalm, and cannon shells on the Viet Cong positions. With any apparent success. Finally, it comes to the hard part. The Mike Force will have to go down the mountain to find the Viet Cong caves. Despite all the modern weapons of war, the riflemen will have to clean out those caves one by one. It'll take days to clean out all the caves, but this operation has an optimistic name. It's called Operation Decisive Victory. This is Don Baker, ABC News, at Landing Zone Emerald on Nui Cotto.
In Saigon, Vice President Key said today that if the communists continue their shellings of Vietnamese cities, then the bombing of North Vietnam should be resumed. And he told reporters that if the United States does not go along with that idea, South Vietnam should use its own air force. Key apparently was speaking for himself. Only a few days ago, President Thu said his government favored continuing the bombing suspension, at least for the present. During the night, the enemy shelled 35 more targets, and again, most of them were military bases. The Allies have not given out figures on overall damage caused by the mortar and rocket attacks, but even an incomplete compilation gathered from Saigon dispatches shows it has been extensive. At least 22 American jets, worth about $1 million each, have been destroyed or damaged. At least 70 helicopters have been lost or damaged. 3 ammunition dumps and 2 fuel storage areas, one of them containing 20,000 gallons of gas, have been blown up, and scores of military buildings have been wrecked. And this is only a partial account of damages. Allied forces in the Mekong Delta are claiming a major victory in an assault against an old and familiar enemy stronghold. After 10 days of fighting, they managed to reach what was described as a fantastic cave complex filled with weapons. The operation proved costly, however, and word of it was delayed for security reasons. CBS newsman Richard Threlkeld was on hand during its initial stages, and here is his report.
They call that $1 Million Mountain back there. So called, it is said, because the American military has, over the years, spent at least that much trying to conquer it. Now, they are about to spend considerably more than $1 million, plus a lot of human capital, assaulting it once again, and for no discernible military reason. The mountain is better known as Nui Coto, one of the oldest Viet Cong strongholds in the country. Allied troops have swept over it time and again, but they have never pacified it. As such, it has been an embarrassment to every military commander here. Now the U.S. military command has assigned 1,000 Special Forces troops, Montagnards and their American advisors, to clean up Nui Coto once and for all. Conquering Nui Coto is a lot easier said than done. It's full of enemy caves and bunkers. Field commanders say there are only about 100 Viet Cong troops on this mountain now, but they've held up 6 companies of Special Forces troops for 3 days now. Behind almost every rock, there is an enemy sniper.
You rolling? Watch the dust off, fellas. Yeah, watch the dust. Hey, sir, them goddamn guns have got him pinned.
The cost of taking Nui Coto has been high. In the first 3 days of this operation, the Special Forces have lost more than 75 killed and wounded, including several Americans. That as against only a handful of confirmed Viet Cong dead, and a few who have surrendered. And taking Nui Coto is just as difficult as trying to drive the Viet Cong out of the Grand Canyon.
They're so dug in, they've been in there for, years. And they've got caves, and they're liking caves going just like the advanced summit operation. And some of those caves would be probably 100 feet, 200 feet deep. Some caves have had elevator shafts in them, get down inside. And they can move around. A very few men can can pin down a battalion up there just because of positions they've got.
See that crack right in there? See, all right, the rock on the left edge. You said, let's go right in, pull it off, all right? Ready? Yeah, service. Target!
The elite Special Forces have fought well and bravely, as usual, for a military objective of doubtful value. Nui Coto is far from any population centers and a long way from the nearest American base. American field advisors concede that taking Nui Coto is more a question of morale than of military significance. After you've been here for a while and you've seen all the casualties and you've seen a little bit of the hellish terrain here, you come away with a distinct impression that the principal reason that these Special Forces have been ordered to take $1 Million Mountain is simply because it's there. Richard Threlkeld, CBS News, Nui Coto, South Vietnam.